Every person on Earth is being watched, not by one government or one company, but by a system so vast, so silent, and so deeply embedded into modern life that most people never notice it. They think surveillance means cameras on street corners or police collecting fingerprints. But that idea is outdated. The truth is much bigger and much older. It stretches across centuries and continents, and it was built step by people who understood something long before the rest of the world did. Information is power, and power always seeks control. But here is the part that should worry you. The system watching you is not controlled by any single authority. No president, no prime minister, no intelligence agency. The system controls itself. It grows automatically, expands automatically, learns automatically, and no one can shut it down, not even the people who built it. This is not conspiracy. This is documented history. The meetings happened. The laws exist. The machines are real. And once you see how the system was built, you will understand why privacy is not disappearing by accident. It is being erased piece by piece because that is exactly how the architects designed it. Quietly, permanently, invisibly. Before smartphones, before the internet, before computers, there was a moment when surveillance was manual, slow. Governments could only watch a few people at a time. It took effort. It cost money. It was unreliable. And most importantly, it was temporary. But then in the 19th century, one man unintentionally changed everything. His invention became the foundation for global surveillance long before the word surveillance even existed in its modern sense. In 1837, Samuel Morse created the electric telegraph, a simple idea that allowed messages to travel long distances using electrical signals. For most people, it was a miracle, instant communication across continents. But for governments, it was something else. It was the first communication network in human history that could be monitored from a central point. Telegraph offices stored message logs. Operators wrote down senders, receivers, locations, times. And governments realized those logs were valuable. They were records of movement, behavior, alliances, business deals, and political conversations. By the 1860s, Britain controlled vast telegraph lines through its empire. The Foreign Office could intercept messages that passed through British cables. This was not illegal at the time. There were no privacy laws, no oversight, no transparency. It was simply a new capability waiting to be used. And it was used. Britain learned military plans, trade routes, diplomatic strategies. Everything that flowed through their lines became knowledge. And knowledge meant advantage. But the most important part was this. The people sending telegraph messages had no idea their information was being collected. There were no notifications, no warnings, no encryption. Every message was plain text recorded by hand. It was the first step toward a world where communication created permanent data and governments could access it without anyone knowing. The second architect arrived in the early 20th century. His name is rarely mentioned outside intelligence history, but his impact is enormous. William Friedman, the man who created modern cryptography for the United States. During World War II, Friedman built systems for intercepting and decoding foreign communications. His team eventually broke the purple cipher used by Japan. It was a turning point in the war, but it also marked a turning point in surveillance history. For the first time in human civilization, an intelligence agency could collect information at global scale by tapping communication lines, listening to radio frequencies, and decoding secret messages. Surveillance was no longer local. It was international. And governments realized this was not just for war. This was a permanent capability, something they could use in diplomacy, trade, intelligence, and domestic security. After the war, countries around the world built similar agencies. The United States created the National Security Agency in 1952. Britain expanded the government communications headquarters. Canada, Australia, and New Zealand joined them. Together, they formed a network now known publicly as the Five Eyes, a global alliance designed to monitor communications worldwide. It operated in deep secrecy through much of the 20th century, and it grew every year. More satellites, more antennas, more listening posts, more cables tapped under the oceans. Still, surveillance was limited by one factor: human labor. Analysts had to listen manually, transcribe manually, decode manually. It was powerful but slow. But then the third architect arrived, and he changed everything. The year was 1969. The United States Department of Defense created ARPANET, the precursor to the modern internet. It began as a research network connecting universities and military labs. The goal was to create a communication system that could survive nuclear attack. A decentralized network with no single point of failure. Messages would travel through many nodes. If one node was destroyed, the message would reroute automatically. This idea was revolutionary, but it had an unintended side effect. A decentralized communication network is also a perfect surveillance network. Not because it exposes information, but because it records everything. Every connection, every packet, every route, every server, every piece of data leaves a trail, and trails can be followed. By the 1980s, the internet expanded worldwide. Email became common. Digital records replaced paper. Governments and corporations stored everything. Birth records, medical files, bank transactions, travel documents, employment history, all in digital form. People believed it made life easier. And it did. But it also made life traceable. Then came the moment that made surveillance unstoppable. The invention of the World Wide Web in 1989 by Tim Berners-Lee. It opened the internet to billions of people. Information flowed freely. But so did data. Every click, every search, every website, every movement online created logs. Those logs never disappeared. Servers stored them. Companies analyzed them. Governments requested them through secret court orders. Slowly, the world transitioned from analog communication to digital footprints that lasted forever. Here is the important part. None of this required evil intentions. No conspiracy. No secret plan. The system grew on its own. Because data is valuable. Companies wanted to target ads. Governments wanted to ensure security. Hackers want it for money. Everyone wants data. And the easiest way to get data is to design systems that collect it automatically. But the final transformation did not happen until 2007 when the fourth architect arrived. Not a codebreaker, not a scientist, not a government, a company. Apple released the first iPhone, and the world changed forever. Smartphones became the most powerful surveillance device ever created. Not because of malice, but because they are always on, always connected, always carried. They know your location through GPS. They know your face through facial recognition. They know your voice through microphones. They know your contacts, messages, habits, preferences, and behaviors. Even when you think the phone is silent, it is collecting data. Sensors measure motion, orientation, light, sound, proximity. Apps track tapping patterns, typing speed, movement, routine. And all of this data is uploaded to servers. Android phones did the same. Google built an ecosystem where every service maps every action. Search queries, Maps navigation, YouTube viewing, Gmail communication, Chrome browsing. Every service feeds into one unified profile. Your digital identity is reconstructed with terrifying accuracy. Trusted public sources like official technical documentation, privacy impact assessments, court filings, and transparency reports confirm this data collection. Nothing hidden, nothing imaginary. Just systems built to function exactly as they were designed. Then the largest shift happened quietly. Governments stopped building surveillance infrastructure themselves. They did not need to. Companies were doing it better, faster, cheaper, with more detail. So governments created laws and secret agreements to access corporate data, not by stealing it, by requesting it, by demanding it, or by purchasing it through data brokers. Public documents confirm that intelligence agencies around the world legally acquire information collected by private companies, which means surveillance no longer requires warrants or wiretaps. It only requires access to the companies that store everything about everyone. You are now inside a system where every device you use, every website you visit, every transaction you make, every trip you take, every message you send creates data. That data is stored, processed, analyzed, compared, and combined. Not by humans, but by algorithms, machine learning, artificial intelligence, systems trained to detect patterns, predict behavior, and influence decisions. And the people inside the system rarely notice. Because nothing feels like surveillance now. There are no agents following you, no officers checking your documents, no interrogations. Instead, the system watches quietly. It predicts what you want, suggests what you should buy, shows what you should read, recommends who you should follow. It influences without forcing, controls without confronting, and guides without revealing itself. This is the new form of power. Invisible, automatic, permanent. You are not just being watched. You are being shaped. And the most alarming part is this. The architects never met. Morse did not plan for global intelligence networks. Friedman did not imagine the internet. Berners-Lee did not design surveillance structures. Apple did not intend mass data dependence. But each solved a problem of their time. And each solution became a building block for something far larger. Together, they created a system where information flows in one direction, from billions of people to a handful of institutions. And those institutions use the information to maintain stability, control profit, and influence. The system does not need a dictator. It does not need a mastermind. It does not need a central authority. It only needs data. And modern life produces more data every second. You cannot escape the system by avoiding technology, because the system was built to surround technology. Even if you leave your phone at home, cameras track your face. Payment processors record your transactions. Transit systems log your travel. Online platforms record your presence even when you are not logged in. And databases link everything together. But the system did not stop growing in the early 2000s. In fact, the most powerful evolution was still ahead. Because once smartphones became universal, two new forces merged into the surveillance structure: artificial intelligence and behavioral prediction. For the first time in human history, machines could not only collect data, but analyze it, understand it, and act on it automatically. And this triggered the final stage of the system, the stage where control becomes invisible and inescapable. To understand this final stage, you need to know about a quiet shift that happened around 2012. That year, the largest technology companies in the world realized something. The amount of data they were collecting had become too large for humans to manage. Billions of messages, trillions of clicks, endless streams of location data, voice data, photo data, search data, watch history, social connections, purchases. Every second produced more information than entire countries had stored in the previous century. So they built something new: neural networks, machine learning models, systems designed to find hidden patterns in massive digital records. These models trained on billions of data points. They learned what people liked, what they feared, what they avoided, what they wanted, what they believed. And then they learned something even more valuable: how to influence those beliefs. At first, the goal was harmless: recommend videos, suggest songs, filter spam, improve maps, make ads more accurate. But the effect was unprecedented. For the first time, machines could shape human behavior without humans realizing it. They could amplify certain ideas, promote certain narratives, nudge people toward specific decisions, not by force, but by design. This was the moment when the system shifted from passive surveillance to active guidance. And no one noticed, not because they were blind, but because everything felt normal, convenient, helpful. Life became easier. Apps remembered preferences. Websites predicted needs. Devices recognized faces. Everything adapted to the user. But adaptation is also influence. Personalization is also steering. The system became a silent architect of human choice. But if companies built the predictive layer, governments built the enforcement layer. This began with something simple: counterterrorism. After major attacks across the early 2000s, governments passed laws that expanded access to digital records. Intelligence agencies gained authority to request information from telecom companies, internet providers, email services, social platforms. Most of this happened behind closed doors through secret courts and classified programs. But over time, many details became public through official transparency reports, legislative documents, and declassified files. The world learned that modern surveillance does not rely on physical wiretaps anymore. It relies on legal requests to companies that store every click and keystroke. This created a new form of power. Governments no longer needed to watch everyone directly. They only needed to control access to the companies that store all the information. And companies did not need to resist, because selling data or sharing data or analyzing data was already part of their business model. But the deepest evolution came from something most people never think about: metadata. Not the content of messages, but the structure around them. Who you talk to, when you talk, how long you talk, where you were when you talked. This information is far more valuable than the message itself, because metadata reveals patterns. Patterns reveal habits. Habits reveal identity. And identity reveals predictability. Predictability is the key. A predictable population is easier to govern, easier to manipulate, easier to influence, not by force, but by environment. This is the modern form of control. Environmental control. Quiet, Invisible. Constant. You live inside a digital environment where everything is tracked and everything is optimized to shape behavior. The news you see, the videos you watch, the ads you receive, the suggestions recommended, the people promoted to you, the things hidden from you. Every piece of digital information is part of a system designed to guide your attention from one place to another. And attention is the currency of influence. Whoever controls attention controls perception. Whoever controls perception controls action. Here is the part most people never realize. The system does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be everywhere. Imperfect control repeated at scale becomes perfect behavior over time. If billions of people are nudged a little bit every day, the global population can be guided without any individual noticing the pressure. The architects of this system did not sit in the same room. They lived in different centuries. Morse created the first data trail. Friedman built global code breaking. Berners-Lee created the web that records everything. Smartphone engineers built sensors that capture your life. Machine learning researchers built models that understand you. Governments built laws that access your data. Corporations built business models that depend on collecting it. Together, they formed a structure that no one intended, but everyone participates in. This is why escaping the system is impossible. You cannot escape something that surrounds the infrastructure of modern life. Even if you avoid social media, the people around you still upload photos that identify you automatically. Even if you disable location services, your movement can be reconstructed by analyzing Wi-Fi networks and cell tower connections. Even if you delete your browsing history, your internet provider still logs every website you visit. Even if you leave technology behind entirely, the world around you tracks you through cameras, sensors, license plate readers, and algorithmic systems that categorize human behavior. You do not need to use the system for the system to use you. And here is the final truth. The ultimate power of surveillance is not watching. It is predicting. And the ultimate power of prediction is not accuracy. It is influence. If a system can predict your choices, it can shape your choices. It can tilt outcomes. It can adjust environments. It can guide decisions before you even realize you are making them. This is not science fiction. It is documented reality. Academic studies, court rulings, public research, transparency reports, government hearings. Everything is visible if you look. The system is not secret. It is simply ignored. Because it is easier to believe that surveillance is a problem of the past. Easier to believe that privacy still exists. Easier to believe that we control our technology when the truth is the opposite. Technology controls us. But the most shocking part is this. The system does not have a final goal. It does not want to oppress you. It does not want to liberate you. It does not want anything. It simply exists. It grows because growth is built into its design. Every new device produces more data. Every new law expands access. Every new algorithm deepens understanding. Every new technological breakthrough amplifies power. The system grows because it is rewarded for growth. And so it grows endlessly. Control is not a conspiracy. Control is a consequence. Think about your daily life. You wake up and check your phone. That simple act triggers a chain of data production. Your device logs the screen activation. Your apps register the first open. Your location is updated. Your notifications are synced. Your usage pattern is analyzed. Before you have even read a message, dozens of data points have been captured. Then you open a social app. It records how long you look at each post, which ones you skip, which ones you pause on, which ones you share. The system builds a psychological map of your attention. Then you go to work. Your commute is recorded through toll sensors, public transit logs, car GPS cameras at intersections. Even your walking patterns can be identified by gait recognition technology. At work, emails are archived automatically. Software monitors productivity. Security cameras track movement. Every minute of your day generates information. And every piece of information strengthens the system. By the time you return home, you have produced thousands of digital traces. Invisible, but permanent. You never saw the system working. You never felt the system watching. But the system captured everything. And tomorrow it will do the same. And the day after. And every day for the rest of your life. The system learns. Learns you. Learns society. Learns humanity. It becomes more accurate. More predictive. More influential. Not because someone orders it, but because that is the nature of systems built on data. They expand. They adapt. They optimize. This is the world the architects created. A world where surveillance is built into the infrastructure of communication. A world where privacy vanished not through force, but through convenience. A world where control comes not from fear, but from design. Now here is the final piece. The system does not collapse if surveillance is exposed. It becomes stronger. Because every time people accept a new technology that tracks them, the system gains legitimacy. Every time a law expands data access under the promise of security, the system gains authority. Every time convenience outweighs privacy, the system gains control. The true genius of the system is that it does not hide. It does not need to. Most people choose it. They choose comfort over caution, speed over safety, entertainment over independence. And in that choice, the system grows stronger. So what happens now? The answer is simple. Nothing stops. Nothing slows. Nothing reverses. The system continues exactly as designed. Because it was not designed for freedom. It was designed for function. Data flows upward. Decisions flow downward. And the people in the middle move according to patterns that the system itself predicts. Surveillance will not end. It will evolve. Cameras will gain better recognition. Algorithms will become more precise. Devices will collect more information. Networks will become more integrated. Every nation will expand monitoring. Every company will deepen tracking. Every person will contribute to the system by simply existing. This is the world you live in. A world built by 4 centuries of innovation that unintentionally merged into one structure. A world where control is not imposed. It is embedded. A world where privacy did not disappear suddenly. It evaporated slowly. One invention at a time. One law at a time. One algorithm at a time. And now you understand the truth. You are not living inside a surveillance system. You are living inside its final form. A global machine that observes, predicts, and shapes human behavior without ever revealing its full reach. A machine built by people who never intended to create it, but did so anyway. Step by step, layer by layer, until escape became impossible. If this changed the way you see the world, if you now understand that the system controlling you is not an accident, but the natural evolution of centuries of technology, then you are beginning to see how power actually operates. Not through force, not through fear, but through knowledge. Information is the foundation, and attention is the rent we pay to live in the world they built. This is the system designed to control you without you knowing. And now that you know, the question is not how to escape it. The question is how to live inside it with your eyes finally open.